where do I even start with the playoffs, man? I mean, I guess I got to start with the obvious one, right? First round, a lot of upsets, obviously, or at least a handful of upsets, I would say. And the biggest one clearly was the Milwaukee Bucks getting bounced in 5 games by the Miami Heat. I mean, crazy stuff. Look, we'll get to more about the Miami Heat later on. Obviously, they're playing the Celtics currently. Even though I truly am afraid of the Miami Heat all the time, nobody in their right mind picked the Heat to beat the Bucks. I mean, come on. Like, the Bucks were the best team in the NBA this year. It clear as day. You know, guy who's arguably the best player in basketball, and Giannis is on your team. You got a fully healthy squad pretty much going into that series. And Giannis gets hurt. Now, I've heard a lot of people say that's the reason they lost. Don't think that's the reason. They lost every game he played. The only game that they won was the one game maybe one of the 2 games he did not fully play in. Every other game that he was in or not in, they lost. So the one game that they ended up winning in that series, Giannis didn't even play, as far as I remember. So not the reason that they lost. And not the, people say, oh, he wasn't 100%. I'm pretty sure he averaged like 35 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists. You could say he's not fully healthy, but he was playing like he was. So, like, I don't find that to be an excuse either. I just think, quite frankly, the Milwaukee Bucks underestimated the Miami Heat and got ambushed on a game-to-game basis, and the Miami Heat just took it to them day after day after day, and by the time the Milwaukee Bucks realized what they were in for, it was too late. That's what I think happened. And, a lot of people picked the Bucks to win the championship this year. And obviously, as a Celtics fan, my heart said, no, the Celtics are winning the championship this year, clearly. But my brain said Milwaukee was probably going to win it because they were just a better team, or at least we thought, but obviously not. So, crazy stuff with that. Jimmy Butler is on another level, and again, we'll get more into the Miami Heat here in a few minutes, so I'll try and hold off on diving into the team too much. So, moving on. Another series that nobody picked the Heat to beat the Bucks. Nobody, not even the Heat picked the Heat to beat the Bucks probably. So I got that wrong in my predictions. Obviously, I thought that the 2 upsets that would happen were the Lakers would beat the Grizzlies and the Warriors would beat the Kings. And guess what? Both of them happened. So I feel like every other series I did pretty well. I did think that the Cleveland Cavaliers would beat the Knicks because I just thought that the Cavs had a better team, top to bottom, but obviously that didn't happen either, but it didn't shock me too much that the Knicks won. I just figured that it wouldn't have been a great matchup for the Knicks to face the Cavs, but obviously I was completely wrong, and the Knicks just dominated the Cavs, quite frankly. So either way, we talked about the Ja Morant stuff earlier with the upset of the Lakers upsetting them, so I won't get into it too much. It didn't shock me at all. I thought the Lakers, from just everything I was watching towards the end of the year, I thought that they were hot. I thought that they were playing, really great defense. They were starting to gel offensively and get that moving. And plus, with everything going on with the Grizzlies, I just didn't think they had much of a chance, and they really didn't. So, didn't surprise me much. Now, I did not expect the Kings to put up nearly as good of a fight against the Warriors as they did. I really thought that the Warriors would win in 5. I'm pretty sure I even said on this podcast that it wouldn't go past 5. I thought maybe the Kings would sneak one of the first 2 games and the Warriors would blow them out for the rest. So the Kings showed me some guts that I didn't think they had. So good for the Kings. And I'd say that they were really close to beating the Warriors, but I watched that entire Game 7 bell to bell, and it never felt like the Kings had a chance for that entire game. I don't know if it was just me knowing that the Warriors are going to win just from experience or what, but for me, I didn't think the Kings had a chance from the minute that it tipped off. It just didn't feel like the Kings, not that they played poorly. I don't think they've really played that poorly. I just think that the Warriors have a Steph Curry, and that's really it. I mean, literally, that's what I hate about basketball sometimes. So it's obviously a superstar-driven sport, and I understand that. It's a lot of fun that way. But, you don't even have to have a better team. and you just have a superstar on your team, and they just basically like yell it's over 9,000, scream really loud, their hair turns blonde, and then they're unstoppable for a game, and then your team's eliminated from the playoffs because even if they don't have even if the other guys don't have a better team than you, you've got that superstar, and so that's it. And I really just felt like that's what happened in Game 7. Like, watching that game, it was just that Steph Curry decided, yeah, oh, it's Game 7, third quarter. What are we, up by 3? All right, yeah. I guess I'll just be unstoppable now. Sounds good to me. Bing, 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 bing. Like, what are you gonna? You can't do anything at that point. You're a child playing against your father, and your father's got his hand out on your forehead, and you're just swinging wildly trying to, and he's just hitting layups over you because you can't do. That's just what it feels like sometimes when you play Steph Curry, or when you play LeBron, or when you play Jimmy Butler, or when you play any of these other superstars that teams have. So, to me, that's just what it felt like. But hey, listen, the Kings had a great year. I really did not give them any credit all year. I thought that they were pretenders, and I think that if they had played a different team in the first round, they probably would have beaten them. I think that if they had scratched out the 2 seed, I think that they might have even been able to beat the Lakers, even though the Lakers pretty much destroyed the Grizzlies, so maybe not. I definitely think that if they had played, I don't even remember who the heck the 5 seed was. Who was the 5 seed this year? I know the 4 seed was Phoenix. Who did Phoenix play in the first round? Obviously nobody that matters because I can't remember. Anyway, I'm sure somebody in the comment section is going to scream at me and tell me it's the Farfig Nougat. All right. It's the Farfig Nougat, fine. And I'm sure I'll think of it in the middle of whatever else I'm saying too. But, if they had played a different team in the first round, I really feel like they probably would have been fine. So yeah, one of those things where I think I didn't give the Kings a lot of credit. I really didn't, and so they had a great year. Second round of the playoffs, I mean, not really a whole lot of surprises for me. Warriors, Lakers. I didn't really know who to pick. Because I didn't want either of them to win. It was one of those things where because I'm looking at it as a Celtics fan going, I don't want to face the Warriors again. They ruined us in the finals, and I definitely don't want to face LeBron in the finals. Even at his age, he's still LeBron, and I'm a Celtics fan, which means I have a lot of PTSD facing LeBron in the playoffs. A lot of PTSD facing LeBron in the playoffs, and him just making my life miserable for much of my life in the playoffs. So, I don't want to face either of those teams. So, to me, it was just like, well, I guess whoever wins, I'll be okay with it. And the Lakers won, so sure, I guess, fine. I mean, I feel like they have the better team, top to bottom. So I guess it makes sense, but it was almost like you wanted to face whoever lost because you'd see the weaknesses, right? That's kind of how it feels for me. Yeah. So I don't know. The Lakers won, cool. And the Nuggets destroyed the Suns. I did think that was a little surprising. I thought the Suns would put up a little bit more of a fight, but without CP3 and then without DeAndre Ayton at the end, they weren't at full strength, so you can make that argument, but I hate to say this, but I think at this point CP3 is not much help. I mean, I just don't think he is at this point in this age. He just can't stay healthy in the playoffs. And even if he does stay healthy in the playoffs, he doesn't usually play all that well anyway. So, I don't know. I think at this point, you're going to have to evaluate whether CP3 is worth it. He's a great player. He's one of the best point guards of all time. In my mind, first ballot Hall of Famer. One of my favorite players ever. But at this point in his career, he's just not the same player he was. He's a liability on defense. He's not a great shooter. He's okay, but he's not great. his passing ability's normally still there, but there's a lot more turnovers now. He's a step behind, it feels like, oftentimes on offense. He's not blowing by a lot of guys. Yeah. Makes me sad, but maybe I'm the only one that thinks that. Maybe hopefully he'll prove me wrong, because I never want to see him stop playing. It's just so much fun to watch him play. Plus, I want him to get a ring at some point. Like, goodness gracious. But anyway, so that didn't shock me too much. I did think that they'd put up a little bit more of a fight, they meaning the Suns, but the Nuggets are just unbelievable right now. And then moving on, Heat Knicks, that didn't shock me at all. I didn't think the Knicks were better than the Cavs, and they won. Didn't think they were better than the Heat, and they lost, so not much to say there. I do want to talk about the second round matchup between the Celtics and the Sixers. But in order for me to do that, I do have to go back a little bit, because I didn't talk about Celtics Hawks. I tweeted out after game 5 against the Hawks. I think it was game 5. Whatever, the one where we had a lead and we blew it, and Trae Young hit a dagger 3 on our court to take it to more games. I think that was game 5. I tweeted that I was done. I was done with the Celtics. I can't take watching them anymore. They're the same team they've been for years. Everybody said that this team was different. It's not different. They're the same exact team, same exact guys, same exact problems, just with Malcolm Brogdon in there sometimes. I'm done. Y'all can win, y'all can lose, I don't care. Now, part of me still feels that way. Obviously, I care. I'm a Celtics fan. I'm never going to not care. I want them to win a championship really, really badly. They won one in 2008, and I really don't think I appreciated it as much as I should, because I thought that we'd win more, and it just never ended up happening. So like this time I want to see it, because I'm really, really going to enjoy it, and I'm really going to appreciate it with all my heart. But this is the same team that it has been for years. They don't want it as bad as the other teams. They don't care as much as the other teams. They let teams back in. They extend series when they shouldn't. And then when their backs are against the wall and they have no other choice, they'll find a way to make you believe again, and then they'll rip your heart out again. And it's just a repeat cycle over and over again until eventually somebody beats them bad enough to where they give up. You don't know when that day comes until it comes, and then you're super disappointed. But, it is what it is. Like, again, for me last year, I picked the Warriors to win in 7 because I thought that, I don't know if you guys remember this, but I picked the first 5 games to a T. I literally picked exactly who would win all the 5 games. And I picked the Celtics to actually fight with their back against the wall at home, and instead they just folded. So that was last year's turning point, where they're like, oh, this is when they get beaten so bad that they fold. Like this right here. But you don't know that day comes until it comes. So every time the Celtics get with their backs against the wall, I always sit there and think, this might be the day that they fold. This might be it. And so when that game happened, I'm like, you know what? If you're going to fold, just freaking fold. I'm done. And they didn't fold. They barely won game 6, so they moved on. Fine, I'm still done. I don't care. I'll watch the games. I'll hope they win. But if you don't win a championship this year, I'm not going to be shocked, and I'm not going to be like depressed beyond belief like I was last year when they lost. Because I truly believe that last year's team was different, and then they proved to not be. But this year, I found out they're not different early. So I'm like, cool, that's fine. I'm good. So when they face the 76ers now, and Joel Embiid is hurt, and he doesn't play game 1, I'm like, oh, we've got the 76ers number anyway. We're going to ruin them. James Harden, yang. Like, what is going on? James Harden is 1,000,000 years old. He weighs 7,000 pounds. He can't blow by anybody except for you, the Boston Celtics, except for you right now. James Harden, fun fact, scored 45 points in game 1. Would you like to know how many times James Harden scored 45 points in a playoff game for the Houston Rockets in his prime when he was an MVP? 0! That's how many. So I'm sitting there as a Celtics fan thinking, you've got to be kidding me. Are you this inept, this uncaring, this just completely, like, separated from reality that you're going to let a past his prime James Harden rip you to shreds when prime James Harden wasn't ripping anyone to shreds in the playoffs? Is this really what's going to happen right now? And at that point, I was like, okay, like, I really can't with this team. And yet, somehow, some way, down 3-2, despite the fact that they lost Game 5 at home again, because James Harden dropped 42 points this time. I haven't gone back to see how many games he scored 42 points in the playoffs as a Houston Rocket, but I'm guessing it ain't many. And I know he didn't do it with the Thunder. So I'm sitting here thinking, we're really going to let a washed James Harden be the reason that we're done. That is where we're going to fold. Are you... If they had lost because of James... Like, if James Harden had come out in Game 6 and dropped 45 again, and we got eliminated in Game 6, I would have just ripped up all my Celtics shirts. I would have taken down the painting back there, and that would have been it. I would have burned my Tatum shirt. I'd have been done. Not because I hate Jason Tatum, although, boy, howdy, he would have been a huge part of that, obviously, with the way he was playing in that series up till Game 7. But, like, it was... I would have been done. I'd have been like, you're never winning a championship. None of these players care. Because it's one thing to let Steph Curry go crazy on you in the finals. He's Steph Curry. That's what he does. Would you have liked to see a little bit more effort to stop him? Sure. But at the end of the day, he is Steph freaking Curry. People think he is the greatest of all time. I do not think that, but he's up there. He's the greatest shooter of all time for sure. He's absolute one-of-one unicorn. No one's been able to do what he's done, and no one's ever going to be able to do it after he's done. For sure. But washed 33-year-old James Harden, whose entire legacy up to this point has been great regular season performer, chokes so hard in the playoffs, it's physically painful to watch. That has been his entire legacy up to this point. And you're not even going to let a 27 or 28-year-old James Harden go crazy on you, which, listen, if that had happened, you know what? Fair. He is fantastic. He is great. He is a first ballot Hall of Fame scorer. Absolutely. Former MVP. I get it. But this version of James Harden, to me, doesn't even belong in the same universe as that James Harden. And I would have been okay if the other James Harden dropped 45 on you and you lost. But this one? No. Not when he's washed and his entire prime he spent choking away playoff games. His entire prime he spent blowing 3-2 leads. His entire prime he spent averaging 25% from 3 in the fourth quarter in playoff games. His entire prime he spent losing elimination game after elimination game after elimination game. Not that James Harden. Not the washed James Harden. No. I would have not been okay with it. I would have lost my mind. Lost my mind. As you can tell, I'm losing my mind right now. This is what I would have been times 58,207. Because it would have actually lost the dang series. But. The big story would have been Jason Tatum, fake superstar. That's what it would have been. That's what it would have been. Would have been. In that parallel universe. But instead, we're living in this one, where for 5 quarters, Jason Tatum was the best basketball player on the planet. He was. He's better than anybody else in the league for those 5 quarters. Or at least anybody in the league left, I should say. Right? And boy, did he save himself. Boy, did he save himself. Because let me tell you, I watched Game 6. I watched every single second of Game 6. And I saw him trip on himself and turn the ball over. I saw him fly out of bounds without getting touched. I saw him miss a layup where there wasn't anybody within 3 to 5 feet of him to block his shot and brick it off the backboard. I saw him miss threes so bad that I knew as soon as it left his hand, it had no chance of going in. I saw him brick free throws. I saw him miss mid-rangers, three-pointers, layups, dunks. throw the ball out of bounds, turn the ball over. I was like, this man has gotten to his big moment where he needs to save his team. And not only is he not showing up, he is having the worst performance by an MVP candidate possibly in the history of the playoffs. The only person that I can remember having a worse playoff game up to that point was John Starks in, I don't even remember what year, 89, 92, I don't remember. He shot like 2 for 17, 0 for 9 from 3, missed all his free throws, and the Knicks lost in Game 7 to the Pacers or whoever it was. That's the only time, and he, not like he was an MVP candidate, he was just a good player. So, MVP candidate? It was unprecedented. I never seen somebody play so bad. I mean, inept, 1 of 14 through 3 quarters, 3 points? Yuck! Are you kidding? Then he made a layup. And then he hit a step-back 3 over Joel Embiid. And even the cynic that I am, even the hardened, battled, depressed, frustrated, desperate Celtics fan that I am, knew that that game was over when he hit that 3. I knew that Jason Tatum was not going to be denied from that moment. Because I knew as soon as he let that one go in, it was over. And then sure enough, he hit 3 more threes, had 16 points in the quarter, saved himself. Now, the important thing is he going to be able to carry it over to Game 7? Yeah, he was. 51 points in Game 7? Are you kidding? The most points ever in a Game 7? Whew, talk about showing up, right? I mean, in 5 quarters, this man went from he needs to be traded, or he needs to be sent to China, or he needs to be sent to whoever, to being the best player in basketball. Now, he's obviously not the best player in basketball, but for those 5 quarters he was, I'll tell you what, it was incredible. Now, so the Celtics win, they find a way, and then it dawns on me, oh, we got to play the Heat again. And I know what you guys are going to say. You're going to say, Tyler, you're only saying this because Game 1's already in the books and the Celtics already lost Game 1. You're already going to say, I know. You're just going to say it. But I promise you this. If you'd have asked me before this series started, Tyler, who you got? I would have said Heat in 5. And every Celtics fan would have screamed at me. Every single one. They would have said, are you kidding? After that performance by Jason Tatum, all that momentum, you think it did? Yes, I do. You know why? Because the Miami Heat want it more, and Jimmy Butler will not be denied this year. If there was ever a year to count out the Heat, it was this one. And Jimmy Butler essentially single-handedly beat the Milwaukee Bucks in 5 games. That's not the Atlanta Hawks. That's not the slow, plodding, inept, and I'm going to only take a shot when there's 1 second on the shot clock left 76ers that the Celtics just had a hard time beating both those teams, by the way. This is the Milwaukee Bucks, who had the best record in the league, despite not having Chris Middleton for half the season, and a team that defensively, other than Grayson Allen, had no weaknesses. Drew Holiday, first team All-NBA caliber player. Or first team All-Defense, not All-NBA, that's not true. First team All-Defensive caliber player. Brook Lopez, second in Defensive Player of the Year voting. Giannis, former Defensive Player of the Year. Chris Middleton has been a former All-Defensive Player. You're talking about a team that has defense on all facets. Perimeter defense. You're not getting past those guys, and even if you do, Brook Lopez and Giannis are waiting for you at the rim. And the Miami Heat, not only, they didn't take 7 games and overpower them at the end with just pure will. They annihilated annihilated the Milwaukee Bucks. Ran them off the floor and said, thank you for coming. Favorites who? That's what the Miami Heat just did to the team that not everyone, a lot of people said they're winning the chip this year. This is another Milwaukee Bucks year. This is it. They're the best team in basketball. And Miami Heat dragged them out behind a shed and put a shotgun into their neck. And then they faced a Knicks team who, quite frankly, matches up pretty darn well against the Heat. Mitchell Robinson is a really good center. Not quite as good as Bam, but still pretty good. Julius Randle would give Kevin Love, or at least in theory, a hard time as the 4. Josh Hart is a guy that, yeah, he's a really good defender and a solid player at the 3. RJ Barrett is a decent 2. That Max Strus, Duncan Robinson, and I keep saying Cody Martin. It's not Cody Martin. It's the other Martin. Why am I forgetting his name? The other Martin. You know which Martin I'm talking about for the Heat. It's not Cody, it's the other one. I'm so sorry. He's going to score like 90 points next game against Celtics. Watch. Anyway, like they're going to have a hard time guarding RJ because he's a solid player. They're going to have their hands full. And then, of course, Jalen Brunson going up against Gabe Vincent and an older, past his prime Kyle Lowry. Yeah, I'm taking Jalen Brunson in that matchup. Like, sure, yeah, I'm taking Jimmy Butler over Josh Hart for sure. But, hey, at least Josh Hart's got a good wingspan. He's a good defender. He's rock solid. He doesn't let a whole lot of guys by him. Like, I thought the Knicks matched up pretty well against the Heat. Nope, they took them behind the woodshed too. Yeah, I think the Knicks might have won 2 games. But did it ever really feel like the series was in doubt from the very beginning? No. At least not to me. I knew the Heat would win. I didn't think for a second the Knicks had a shot. And then, now they get to face the Celtics. And I would have told you before the series, Heat in 5. Now, I did think the Celtics would win game 1, and then I thought the Heat would just rip us to shreds for 4 straight games. That's what I genuinely believed. I believed that we would win game 1, the Heat would make adjustments in game 2, they'd kill us both games in Miami, and we'd fold in game 5. Because guess what? Guess what game we've lost at home in both series? Game 5. Yeah. So I thought they'd lose again. And they probably still will. If the series goes to 5 games, because who knows, might be a sweep. But for me, I would have told you before the series, Heat in 5. Watching the game last night proved to me that the Celtics not only are not going to win the series, they are the exact same team that has made no adjustments since 3 years ago when they played the Heat. They didn't make any adjustments. They haven't made a single adjustment to the Heat. There's the zone still gives them trouble. They still turn the ball over a million times. Jason Tatum drives right into 3 people in the zone and he gets stripped about 87% of the time when that happens. They miss a bunch of threes. They take a bunch of mid-range shots that aren't any good, and they can't stop anybody. It's the same thing. 3 years ago, the Boston Celtics lost because the Miami Heat could not stop making threes at an above-average rate. Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, and you know, a few other guys just were raining threes. They'd get an inch of space, whoop, bing, all night long, every game. It was insane. But you know what? You sit there and think, well, you know what? They just got hot. And now you look back, and Tyler Hero's not as good of a three-point shooter as he was that year. And Duncan Robinson definitely is not the same player he was that year. Not even close. He barely plays. So, yeah. You could say, you know what? Maybe they just got really hot. You're willing to deal with that. Last year, what happened pretty much every time the Celtics lost, and they ended up winning the series by that much because Jimmy got so exhausted that he threw up a 3 at the very end to win the game, and it was short because he was exhausted at that point, literally willing the Heat back from down like 18 or whatever the heck it was. But if you look back at all the games they lost, the Celtics won 3 quarters pretty much every time. And then the Heat would beat them so badly in that other one quarter that the Celtics wouldn't be able to recover. And why did the Celtics lose game 1 to the Heat? Because the Miami Heat shot 50% from 3, and they beat them so bad in the third quarter that despite the fact the Celtics outscored them in the other 3 quarters, all 3 of them, Celtics got more points in the first, more points in the second, and more points in the fourth. But they lost so badly in the third quarter that they lost the game. So not only are you losing like you did 3 years ago, or you're losing like you did last year, you're losing both. You're losing for both reasons. The same one you lost 3 years ago, and the same reason you lost last year. So you guys tell me, what's the definition of insanity again? Even though this isn't the actual real definition of insanity, and I can't stand when people use it, so I'm being a little bit of a hypocrite right now. The widespread definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. That's not the definition of insanity, by the way, just in case we were wondering. But if that is what the Celtics are doing, why? You didn't learn your lesson 3 years ago that you need, even though they're not on paper phenomenal shooters, you need to get in their space because for some reason when they play you, they shoot 50% from 3 all the time? Or hey, last year, they beat us really badly in one quarter. We can't have those quarters against them this year. They're going to beat us. They're too hot. They're too good. Nope. You just went out there and let the Heat do whatever they want. You let them dictate the pace of the whole game. You let them shoot 72% in the third quarter and miss 1 3-pointer in that whole quarter. You let them score 46 points in the third on your own home floor, despite the fact that in the second quarter you were up by 15. Are you kidding me? You came out in halftime and just crapped the bed. So when I watched that game and I looked at the final line score and I saw 54% from the field and 50% from 3 for the Heat, and I saw that ticket go across for the box score and it said, 29-24, 38-29 or whatever it was. I don't know. I know they were only up by 9 at halftime, but you guys understand where I'm going with this. 46-20 and then 21-26 or whatever the heck it was. That math doesn't add up. But you know what I'm trying to say? Like, when I saw that, I went, okay, they're losing for both reasons, which means they've made no adjustments for 3 years. They have not learned a single lesson from playing the Heat in the last 3 years. Whereas the Heat have learned exactly what they're supposed to do to play the Celtics. They're doing the exact same thing. They know exactly their weaknesses, and they're going to exploit them. And the Miami Heat, if you give them a millimeter to breathe, they will tear your heart out. They are not like the 76ers, and they are not like the Hawks. The 76ers had an entire culture of failure going against them in Game 7. James Harden's ineptitude in the playoffs. Doc Rivers blowing more 3-2 leads than anybody in history of coaching, in the NBA anyway. 10 losses now in Game 7s, despite the fact that no other coach has even half that. Actually, I think there might be some that have had 5. So exactly half that. But you get my point. They had an entire culture of failure going against them. The Heat don't have that culture of failure. They have the opposite. They have a culture in which if you give them an inch, they will rip out your soul. The Milwaukee Bucks quite literally gave them just a little bit of space. And the Miami Heat said, yeah, you're dead. And they killed their entire family. There is no Milwaukee Bucks left. They got wiped off the face of the earth. And then poor Knicks just had no chance from the beginning. I don't even think the Knicks thought they had a chance to win that series. It literally, to me, I couldn't even watch the games after a little while. After like 3 or 4 games, I'm like, I can't even watch this. Like, the only one out there who felt like he gave a crap was Jalen Brunson. And so you just feel bad for the guy. You just feel like he's out there by himself. And now the Celtics go up against the Heat, who they face now 3 times in the last 4 years in the Eastern Conference Finals. And it's the same exact problems. They come out lackluster in the third quarter. They get the breaks beaten off of them. They lose the game that they shouldn't have. Now they're scrambling. I'm sure they're going to win game 2 because that's the pattern. They'll come out desperate. They'll probably win. But I'll tell you what, after the Miami Heat taste a little bit of blood, they're going to get desperate. And the Celtics, just like they always do when they win a game in the playoffs, I feel better now. Like, and then it's going to be over before you know it, and the Heat are going to be moving on to the NBA Finals. And I'm going to sit here and say, did we really just let Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry, a 98-year-old Kevin Love, Bam Adebayo, who's not a better center than any of the other centers, well, maybe he's better than Robert Williams. I'll give him that at least, but he wasn't better than Joel Embiid. He's not better than Jokic. He's not better than Davis. Like, you're going to really let him, Jimmy Butler, and a bunch of no-names go to the finals again. When you've got, according to the NBA, because guess what? Jaylen Brown made second-team All-NBA. I don't know if you realize that. That means that you have not one top 5 player in the NBA, not one top 10 player in the NBA. You have 2 now. That's what now, it's obviously not perfect. It doesn't exactly mean top 10, but you can make the argument now. He was a second-team All-NBA, which means he was one of the 10 best players in the NBA, Jaylen Brown. And Jason Tatum obviously made first team, so that means you got 2 of the top 10 players in the NBA. Let me ask you this. Do the Heat have 2 of the top 10 players in the NBA? Nope. Do they have 2 of the top 20 players in the NBA? Nope. Do they have 2 of the top 40? Maybe. Maybe. You have top 5 player, top 10 player, 6th man of the year, guy who was in the running for defensive player of the year last year, guy who won defensive player of the year last year, Derek White, who put up like 18 points a night this year, and a guy who is quote-unquote the Joel Embiid stopper in Al Horford, and you're getting your breaks beaten by Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and a bunch of their undrafted friends. It is so frustrating. But, as I said, if you'd asked me at the beginning, I knew this was going to happen, so I don't know why I'm letting it get me frustrated. I don't know why I'm surprised. I really shouldn't be. Hey, guys, me again. Thank you so much for watching one of my clips from the Lopes Goes Last podcast. These clips are so much fun to do. I absolutely love making them, and I absolutely love doing them. And this podcast is my baby, so I really want this thing to grow, and I really want it to succeed. So if you did like what you see, please subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification so you never miss any one of my episodes or one of my clips like this one. And please do also like and share these videos with your friends and your family so that we can make this thing grow as fast as possible. And I wanted to thank you again so much. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video and have a great rest of your day.